Pete the cat. Back and better than ever. Love Pete the cat. And tonight is the great and one sought after debate. Which Pete the cat book? Which one? Now, honestly, to be fair, this book won by a lot, actually. But there's a part of me that's like, this book is short. So I might have to read both just because I really want to know what happens when Pete the cat checks out the library. I gotta know. So, to be fair, since this one did win, I'm going to read it first. And then I'm going to read this one second. Just because they're short and I want to and I can. Yay! All right. So, we shall begin with the great and noble classic, probably. Pete the cat, a pet for Pete. Now, this is going to be an interesting situation because pets, getting along with other pets is never a good thing because I have two cats and they don't get along with each other. But we're going to figure out what's going to happen. All right. Pete the cat, a pet for Pete. Pete is going to the pet store. He's going to get a pet. Pete wants a bird, a hamster, or a lizard. But then Pete sees a goldfish. That's what I want, he tells his mom. Pete's mom gets fish food. I'm going to call you Goldie, Pete says to his new pet. Oh, you are my first pet, Pete tells Goldie on the way home. Pete takes Goldie to his room. He feeds her fish food. Now what? Asks Pete. He can't play with Goldie. He can't swim with her. Pete paints a picture of Goldie. He paints 4 fins and an orange tail. What a pretty painting, said Pete's mom. You can keep it, says Pete. Aww, that's sweet. Cool painting, said Bob. Bob looks like my Georgie. That's so cute. Distracted. I'm back. Can you make one for me? Sure, says Pete. Pete paints a picture for Bob. Wow, said Bob. It looks just like Goldie. Bob shows Pete's painting to his friend Tom. Now Tom wants a painting too. Pete paints another picture of Goldie to take to school for show and tell. This is Goldie, my pet fish, Pete tells his class. Cute fish. Cool colors. Nice work. I wish I had a picture of Goldie, says Benny. I'll make you one, says Pete. Everyone in Pete's class wants a painting of Goldie. Pete's grandma wants a painting too. Pete has a lot to do. He has to feed Goldie, and he has to do his homework. Pete paints and paints. He makes paintings for everyone on his list. At last, Pete is done. He worked hard. There's no paint left. Pete's paintings are a big hit. Pete is happy to be done. But Pete is not done. Now everyone in town wants a painting of Goldie. okay. Pete gets more paint. I don't know what to do, he says to his mom. I wish I could paint pictures for everyone. I just don't have time. Pete's mom has an idea, and she tells it to Pete. Great idea, says Pete. Pete gets right to it. This time he works outside and makes a huge painting. That is pretty huge. Wow. Honk, honk, beep, beep. Here comes Pete. He has made one painting of Goldie for everyone in town to enjoy. Cat City Hall? What a great day. When Pete gets home, he tells the real Goldie all about it. The end. That was nice. And because this story was short, bonus! Pete the Cat Checks Out the Library by James Dean. This one was also written by James Dean. Pete the Cat Checks Out the Library by James Dean. Pete's mom is taking him to the library for the first time. The librarian gives Pete his very own library card. Cool, says Pete. The librarian smiles. Time for the tour. Dude, I want a tour. I don't remember getting a tour. Except a college library. The librarian takes Pete through the library. There is a big desk where people wait to check out books. Pete sees some of his friends reading at a long table. It's very peaceful and quiet. How relaxing. The librarian takes Pete to her favorite room. There are lots of Pete-sized chairs and tables and shelves. There are books of every shape, size, and color. What do I do now? Pete asks. Now you read a book, the librarian says. Which book should I read? Asks Pete. You can read any book you like, says the librarian. Pete looks around. There's so many books. Wow. Look, there are so many books. There's books about cats and the moon and bugs and dogs. Oh, a cat library has books about dogs. What? Pumpkin. I guess Pumpkin wanted to find out what happens next. You silly cat. So, Pete picks a book all about airplanes and jets. He reads it and pretends he's a stunt pilot. He flies a super fast jet and does a loop-the-loops and spirals high in the sky. Oh no, he's upside down. Oh dear. Then Pete finds a book with dragons, wizards, and unicorns on the cover. He reads it and imagines that he is a powerful wizard using magic spells and a special wand to defend his castle against a fire-breathing dragon. Ah! That does look fun. And that looks like a fun unicorn. Next, Pete opens up a book about spiders and insects. He reads it and imagines that he is a scientist studying all types of critters in the wild. He has to be very still to study some critters and very fast to study others. Then Pete chooses a book with all sorts of scary monsters on the cover. It's a book of fairy tales. Pete reads it and pretends that he is in an old spooky forest, a dark one, trying to outsmart a big, bad wolf. I love Pete the cat because he has faces like this. That wolf's like, I'm gonna eat you, and he's like, mm. Pete puts that book back on the shelf. It's too scary. Pete opens up a book about the pyramids in Egypt. He reads it and pretends that he's an explorer riding a camel across the desert and climbing to the top of a giant pyramid. Cool. Next, Pete picks a book with all sorts of robots on the cover. He reads it and imagines that he is a robot at a robot dance party. His arms and legs make whizzing sounds when he moves. When Pete speaks, he says bleep, bloop, bleep, bleep, bloop, bleep. Next, Pete picks up a book about superheroes. He reads it and makes believe that he's a superhero. He flies around the city in a colorful cape, chasing bad guys and saving the day. Yay! Then, Pete spots a big book about the ocean and all its creatures. He reads it and imagines that he is a scientist in a submarine deep in the Atlantic Ocean, looking for whales and squids and sharks. Cool. There are so many wonderful books to read at the library. Pete can be whatever he imagines with a book. Reading is super groovy. The end. And it's true. The library has helped me several times with Tuesday's Tales, helping me find wonderful books like these for free. And most people are like, duh, I know the library's free, but yet we forget that the library is free. And you can get movies and books. And I got a telescope one time to use with my Girl Scout troop for free. Free! Like, free's good. Free's great. All right, speaking of free, we're going to talk about the free gift that Jesus gives us. We're going to be reading our Bible story tonight about the Bible. Makes a lot of sense. All right, so the very first story in the book. It's called The Story and the Song. God wrote, I love you. He wrote it in the sky and on the earth and under the sea. He wrote his message everywhere. Because God created everything in his world to reflect him like a mirror, to show us what he is like, to help us know him, to make our hearts sing, the way a kitten chases her tail, the way red poppies grow wild, the way a dolphin swims. And God put it into words too, and wrote it in a book called the Bible. Now, some people think the Bible is a book of rules, telling you what you should and shouldn't do. The Bible certainly does have some rules in it. They show you how life works best. But the Bible isn't mainly about you and what you should be doing. It's about what God has done. Other people think the Bible is a book of heroes showing you people you should copy. The Bible does have some heroes in it. But, as you'll soon find out, most of the people in the Bible aren't heroes at all. They make some big mistakes, sometimes on purpose. They get afraid and run away. At times, they're downright mean. Let's see some of these people that we recognize. Now, my kids that are watching this, they would know about Noah and Moses and David and Daniel and Mary and Peter and Joseph and Abraham and Saul. My kids would know about this. It's true. No, the Bible isn't a book of rules or a book of heroes. The Bible is most of all a story. It's an adventure story about a young hero who comes from a far country to win back his lost treasure. It's a love story about a brave prince who leaves his palace, his throne, everything to rescue the one he loves. It's like the most wonderful of all fairy tales that has come true in real life. You see, the best thing about this story is that it's true. There are lots of stories in the Bible, but all the stories are telling one big story, the story of how God loves his children and has come to rescue them. It takes the whole Bible to tell this story. At the center of the story, there is a baby. Every story in the Bible whispers his name. He's like the missing piece in a puzzle, the piece that makes all the other pieces fit together, and suddenly you can see a beautiful picture. This is no ordinary baby. This is the child upon whom everything would depend, who would one day. Wait a minute. Our story starts where all good stories start, right at the very beginning. Dun dun dun! Yes, I'm going to leave you hanging, but that just means you have to come back next week. Now, I haven't decided what book to do next week. I would love your ideas, but I'm running low on books, so I got to get back to the library and find some. So if you have any ideas of a book that I haven't read yet, or maybe one you'd like me to read again, I don't know. That's about where we're at. So leave them in the comments below or send me a message, and I'm gonna figure it out. It'll be a surprise for everybody. So I will see y'all next Tuesday.